I'm sure. And let's check this part out.
I'm just quitting my mail so it doesn't make doomed noises.
All right, so hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. There we are. Good. Let's try that again. Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So now I have, and let me make sure I'm live on Facebook. This, and yes, good. Connect and go live. And we should be live on Facebook. So let's try this one more time. Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Now, with me, I have Katie Johnston, who's live with me tonight. First, Katie, please say hi. And this is assuming that we are live in the way that I think we're live. And I think we are, yeah. Yeah, we are. Good. Katie, please say hi to everyone. I know this has been somewhat of a mess trying to get you here today, but I mean, with everything that's been taking place, but welcome to the Soapbox.
G'day, Jamal. How you going?
Days have been better.
I hear you've had a really exciting day. I would like to talk to you about that. I mean, you know, before we get to my stuff or whatever. So what actually happened? Did you get your YouTube downgraded because of what's happening?
Yes,
Tell me. Step it out.
That's exactly what took place. So I was in the middle of a video with Debbie saying Progressive. And as her and I were doing the video was going well. Everything was going fine. We were on somewhat of a controversial topic. I mean, we were talking about essentially conspiracy theories. And she didn't necessarily like my perspective of this. I took this stuff as, you know, you have a country that's awash in guns and violence. And in a country that's awash in guns and violence, you're going to get guns and violence. Now, she's been outspoken saying that this, you know, she thought this was somewhat of a hoax. And at the very least, they were using it as a pretext to take away more rights. Regardless of where you fall in that particular debate or that particular conversation, it's kind of besides the point. The video was taken down in the middle, meaning like an hour and 20 minutes in, and they just took it down, just stopped. The stream literally just cut off. And I'm thinking, holy shit, maybe we said something that was a little too far. Maybe somebody was watching the channel right away. No, that wasn't it. They weren't taking down the video for that. They took down the video because of a video that took place maybe a month ago where Chris Hayes was talking. Chris Hayes, the day before, had a bunch of people on who was screaming that Russian trolls, that essentially Facebook and Twitter ads was equivalent to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. So to Chris Hayes' credit, on the very next day, he had somebody on the show who was a journalist who investigated this going back in 2015, made a point that says this is a building with a bunch of people writing Facebook and Twitter ads, and that this is not this kind of undermining of democracy that these people are screaming about. And that was the video. Now, the name of that video was Journalist on Chris Hayes Debunks the Russian Troll Hysteria, or something to that effect. It was something similar to that. They took that video down, and they put a strike on the account, saying that you can't do live streaming for 3 months because of it.
That was a legitimate story.
It was a legitimate story.
On MSNBC. Chris Hayes covered it.
Yes.
He had the guest in.
Yes, he did.
And you were really commenting on it.
Literally showed his video. So
it actually went out on mainstream television anyway to start with. Yes. And that was what they pinned you on.
That was what they killed it on.
Unbelievable. That is so how? That is really crazy. That
is breathtaking. I mean, it's one thing. Yeah. Look, if I went out there and said the moon was flat and that it was made of Swiss cheese and that, you know, like I can think of all insane things that you can think of. This was literally on Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes was literally doing this story, talking to the guy who went to this particular Russian farm, who did an analysis of this Russian farm, this quote-unquote troll farm, going back in 2015. Years before this. And his point was these people are being hysterical, and what they're being hysterical about is not necessarily the reality that they're trying to put forward. They're trying to essentially come up with a story that's more hyperbolic and in order to obfuscate from other issues, they're pushing a narrative, not necessarily the reality. That was the totality of that piece. I don't even think that piece was long, but they took issue with that particular story. They put a strike on the account, and they cut live stream capability because of it. It's fucking amazing.
Well, I found that just astounding, Jamal, because I know I've watched you when I can, and you do very thoughtful, very measured pieces. You do. It's very measured commentary. You don't go out of the. You just state what the facts are and then what your opinion is. There's nothing hyperbolic around it. Isn't it ironic that that's what it apparently amazing. They want the hyperbole, but only their hyperbole. No one else's hyperbole.
It is amazing.
I mean, I would even say, like, you know, if you were trying to say the moon was flat, or the earth was flat or whatever, you have the right to say that. That's fine. It's your opinion. Like, it's not going to, like, these are not dangerous opinions to have anyway. The very fact that, you know, knowing you, Jamal, I'm sure it was like a wonderful, intelligent piece on an actual thing that really did happen on television. That's so crazy.
I was basically trying to make the point that my point for the whole Russia hysteria thing has been these people have been screaming at the top of their lungs that Russia attacked us, and that they started off with this idea of Trump and Russia. They couldn't demonstrate Trump and Russia, so they moved from Trump and Russia to, you know, Russia is somehow colluding with WikiLeaks. When they couldn't make that stick, it just was Russia attacked us and undermined democracy. And then what they were using for this is Facebook and Twitter ads. I'm trying to get it. Like, I was trying to get across the ridiculousness of what they're talking about. They're saying that 9/11 and Pearl Harbor were synonymous with Russian Twitter ads, Facebook and Twitter ads, half of which took place after the election. This is what they were arguing. And my point to this was, these people are being hysterical, these people are being ridiculous, and there's a difference between something like us destroying other countries, us invading those countries in regards to this kind of cyber warfare, versus somebody putting Russian Twitter ads. And that's assuming that it was the Russian government that did it. I mean, at the end of the day, you're seeing Twitter and Facebook ads. Mind you, Twitter and Facebook ads that had no impact on the election, and that for all intents and purposes fit in with what people were already saying in this process. So
yeah. And amazing too that they're trying to say that that's dangerous.
Yes.
Some Facebook ads are dangerous,
but
it's not dangerous to escalate tensions with a nuclear power. Like their whole push to goad Trump to go further and further with escalations into Russia, while screaming that he's also Putin puppet as well at the same time. That's not dangerous. I mean, I can't think of a more fucking dangerous story than that to keep going with. And so, yeah, we need to push back on that. I get a lot of heat for talking about Russiagate a lot and debunking it a lot, but it's because it's a very dangerous story. It is pushing us to the brink of annihilation. And I'm sorry, but I'm not ready to go. I like life. I quite like it here. I'd like to see how it ends, you know, for myself in a natural way, like not in a big kaboom. So,
right.
Yeah, anyway.
Right. No,
I'm really fucking annoyed about that, Jamal, because you're fantastic and I want you to do like live streams and I want you to be huge, and that just really shits me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's aggravating. It is immensely aggravating. Like, it's one thing if I made something up. If it was one thing I was just outright lying or making shit up. The Russian thing is profoundly dangerous. And you have you're putting pressure on Donald Trump to be like, even the left, they're pushing him to be more hawkish. Like it's almost like saying if Donald Trump came out tomorrow and says, you know what, we're getting closer and closer to the brink of war. We've just attacked Syrian forces. Russia has already said that if you attack Syrian forces, we will attack your planes, or we would attack your forces if you're attacking Syria. I don't want to be any part of this, so we're pulling out American troops. You would have all of these lefty channels screaming, there it is. There's evidence that he's working with Vladimir Putin, that he's not getting us closer to the brink of war. That is proof positive that he's working with Vladimir Putin. Like, the pressure and incentives that the left and for the most part, the media is pushing Donald Trump is to be more hawkish, to be more batshit crazy. Do you know they've sent a fleet, not a fleet, they've sent a warship to the Black Sea right now. Like they're sending them to Russia. That's amazing. Like we've been in troops on their borders. We've been killing Syrians. I mean, we got into this thing where we killed, I think it was like 100 and some Syrians. Now, the United States is in their country illegally. We're in Syria illegally. But the United States still said it was self-defense. We're in your country, but it's self-defense when we attacked your people. Mind you, backing up terrorists while attacking Syrian forces. So I find this to be immensely amazing. I find, and then, there was one lefty commentator that made this point of, like, dropping bombs on Syria wasn't that really big of a deal. It was Nerf bombs. Like the bombs were being dropped. They really didn't hurt anybody. They were just blowing up stuff. And you're literally making the argument in order to attack Donald Trump that Donald Trump bombing Syria is somehow not that big of a deal, or that he's dropping these kind of like Nerf bombs, these artificial bombs. They're soft bombs. They don't really hurt anything. Like, it's profoundly insane, some of the stuff that they're doing. I mean, this is massively Orwellian. They're screaming Russia to such an extent where they're putting pressure on Facebook, Twitter, and Google in order to maintain that narrative. And by the way, I saw the article you wrote about essentially making this point that in the same way that these guys are attacking the right, that lefties need to be careful, because ultimately that is also going to be turned on them. And you made the point of this guy is now saying that they need to attack Medium and left-wing articles on Medium because these, those articles contradict the story that people like the Daily Beast or some of these more establishment pieces put out. So
yeah, right. And look, today it happened. Like, and the YouTuber, if what we believe is true right now, if they actually did take away your live stream capabilities.
Oh, they did.
Because
absolutely. They literally took it down in the middle of the stream.
Right. So, like, you're a progressive voice, a very, like, moderate progressive voice, I would say, and they've taken away your privileges on the back of this whole Russian bot. Everyone's a Russian bot if we don't agree with them, or you're either a Russian bot or a Nazi, depending on what you're saying. Right. And they've manufactured this consent to silence the voices. And these are people, like, oh, God, it makes me crazy. Because everything that they say with Russian bot thing is really healthy. Yeah. It's all the healthy stuff. It's all about Black Lives Matter. And, they've taken the civil rights movement, the environment movement, the water protectors, everything. Everything is actually and called it Russian. So we're in this disastrous position where the people who know what's really up are getting silenced all the time to the benefit of a few plutocrats, and some corporate money. Oh, fuck them. I'm so fucking sick of it.
And the sad part is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has turned around and backed them up. Like, he literally came out and he's been putting out these comments like, well, yeah, Russia helped Donald Trump. And it's sad that Donald Trump had to run, or that Hillary Clinton had to run against Russia and Donald Trump. And that, Russia. And then somebody kind of made the point to him that, you understand that if you're going to say that Hillary Clinton had to run against Russia, that he also can make that argument that you was also assisted by Russia. And that is damn the argument that they made, that Trump and Russia and Trump and Sanders. And Sanders has been coming out there saying that, Russia has helped Donald Trump. It's like, well, hey, buddy, they helped you too if you're going to make that argument that they were helping Donald Trump. It had no effect on the election.
It had no effect. And also, just the way that this, he is breaking my heart. He is breaking my heart. Yeah. Because so many people, when you think back to, his campaign and just the upswell of hundreds of thousands of regular people who put so much energy, so much time, everything they had into his, and so much of their money that they could not afford into his campaign. And he has not stepped up to the plate at all. Yeah. That guy has, it is really crushing the way that he talks about people. People who supported him wholeheartedly the whole time, and now he's just willing to, I don't know,
chuck him. I mean, Black Lives Matter. He comes out on Chuck Todd, Mr. Oblivious, and says something like, yeah, they were helping Black Lives Matter. And mind you, again, I find the need to continuously say that these were Facebook and Twitter ads because I want to get across the ridiculousness of the arguments that are being made. But essentially, black people weren't upset that they were being shot in the face by cops and those cops were walking. Ultimately, it was Russia. It was Vladimir Putin. And, and his supporters, Bernie Sanders supporters, weren't upset because they cheated. That same Bernie Sanders, that exact same Bernie Sanders was cheated. Whether Bernie Sanders remembers this or not, he pretends he doesn't like to bring this up. But the original theory of this, the original hypothesis of this, was that Russia hacked the election in order to release information showing that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party cheated Bernie Sanders and that the Clinton Foundation was a slush fund. Now, the original premise of that was they cheated Bernie Sanders. The reason that people were pissed off wasn't because they were Russian bots. It was because the guy who they wanted was cheated. It's amazing to hear him come out and say this.
It really is amazing because in order to believe that story, you have to think that the Russians hacked the emails, which they didn't, and we know that, and there's no evidence of that. Yeah. But even if they fucking did, the emails were real. Yes. They really did show collusion. They really did show that it was rigged against him from the very, very beginning. Yeah. They showed us and them terminology, and and we've since learned more and more that there was no way the DNC was going to let Bernie Sanders be the nominee. That was never on the cards. And then we've seen since then, just the doors be closed over and over and over again to progressives in the DNC and in the Democrats. And then he just denies it all.
Yeah. Oh man, you have no idea how aggravating that is. That is so aggravating. Because I'm one of those people who said if Sanders runs again, Sanders is going to get my vote. That was my default position because I don't feel like I need to take anything away from Sanders in order to kind of take shots at Sanders. Like, I can say, yes, Sanders did XYZ. He woke a lot of people up. His domestic policy and everything else that he was pushing was good and everything else. But by the same token, I can also look at that and say, but I greatly dislike him putting a knife in all of these people that were actually supporting him. And mind you, he immediately pivoted from that, meaning when Chuck Todd left that conversation, Bernie Sanders is using rhetoric, like he's a big tough guy, like there are going to be severe consequences and Russia attacked this democracy and all this, insane stuff. And you're like, it looks like a hostage video. It looks like Bernie Sanders is sitting there. It looked like he's, sweating bullets. And it's like you're having this conversation about Twitter and Facebook ads. This is too stupid. Now, they immediately take this information from Bernie Sanders and pivot from this to attack Jill Stein. And the argument that they use is the argument that I've continuously said, dude, nobody is going to remember the context of what you're saying. The only thing they're going to hear is Russia helped Bernie Sanders in the same way that Russia helped Donald Trump. And the reason that Hillary Clinton lost wasn't because she was a horrible candidate. It wasn't because she was a failed candidate. It wasn't because she chose Tim Kaine or that she ran as if the country owed her their votes. No, it was because of Russia. Now, nobody, immediately, they went from Meet the Press to have a conversation with one of the people on MSNBC. And the woman was like, well, Jill Stein, Bernie Sanders has corroborated what was being said about these people attacking democracy. What do you think about this, Jill Stein? And literally asked Jill Stein, they said, hey, is it possible that if you weren't in the race, that Hillary Clinton would have won? And Jill Stein was like, you understand we're talking about one Facebook ad, right? Because at this point, literally, we're talking about one. And she says, yeah. I understand that Jill Stein did it was one Facebook ad. But, if you weren't in the race, do you think Hillary Clinton would have won the election? This is the tenor of the argument as a pivot point from Bernie Sanders giving them that I guess, the level of validity to what is absolutely ridiculous. They literally attacked Jill Stein over one Facebook ad. It's amazing.
Didn't she give it back though? She was so great.
Oh, God.
She was so impressive.
She held her shape, man. I was like, I voted for that woman, and I was proud to vote for that woman. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was punching the air and stuff. She's so fantastic. The way that she can compress truth into 7-second sound bites is amazing.
Yes.
And just off the beat, like she's so impressive.
She was.
I'm really
off,
glad they have to
she was pissed.
Get a comment from her. Isn't it great that they actually have to go and get comment from her occasionally because, you know, she's a part of the story? They always regret it. They go away bruised and battered and like, oh, shit, let's not do that again. But, you know, she's a part of the story, so they have to occasionally.
You know, and
she always makes.
And the sad part is, it took her to bring up the fact that they cheated Sanders. Like, it literally took her. Like, she was like, you know, we're not talking about the DNC rigging the thing. And she says, well, I understand all that, Jill Stein, but what? What takes more of an attack on democracy? One of the parties literally rigging the process, or Facebook and Twitter ads, like $150,000 in Facebook Twitter ads. There's no reality to what they're saying at all, and it does not stop them from saying it. Despite there not being a reality to it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is incredible.
I brought you on to talk about your book. So let's talk about your book. I'm sorry. It was like literally within the last, like, I think it was like maybe an hour ago, maybe 30, 45 minutes ago, maybe an hour ago, where they shut the countdown. So it was like all this stuff happened at once.
Which is much more important in my.
Well, it's important because I try to grow the channel and I try to make this larger, I guess, if that's being said. And live streams help a great deal for that. So it's a pain in the ass. It annoys the shit out of me, but it is what it is.
You've been working bloody hard on that thing, and it really does piss me off that they're trying to undermine you. Like, that's, you know, the interference levels anyway, you know, and so you managed to get the video up here, but it's made it difficult, and that's what they do. They just keep undermining you until you're like, I can't be fucked anymore. Like, so, and I really wish you would have more viewers. That's because I think you're amazing. So hopefully we can bring some more attention to the things that you're doing, and then perhaps, you know, get some more regular viewers for you, because I really think you're worth watching. I love your take.
I've added on to BitChute to that particular video with Sane, because I know they're going to take that video down. That video is going to be a strike. So I'm adding that one to BitChute. I know that one's going to be a strike. If they were bitching about the Russian trolls, I regardless of whether or not somebody believes or disagrees with an opinion, it's kind of besides the point. The moment that you're trying to suppress that opinion is going to make people think that there's something there to the opinion. It's like the very act of suppressing it. It's like the moment that you make drugs illegal, you create a black market for drugs. Allow people to have their say. I mean, part of the reason that these guys, that their quote unquote conspiracy theories run free in the first place is because of the loss of legitimacy to, you know, whether it's media or whether politics, like the things, it's fucking amazing. The original point of the video that I made, Sane eventually called in, but the original point of the video had nothing to do with Sane Progressive. The point of the video was the reason why people go into this idea of quote unquote conspiracy theories, and showing this list of items that were lied to, where the public was outright flamboyantly lied to, going back in time from this Russian nonsense, going back to weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, to whether or not the Libya thing, you know, saying we're going into Libya is to help these people out. It's like one narrative after the next, which ended up being lies. The Bin Laden raid was a lie. Like, you can trace this stuff going back for item by item by item by item. I'm just trying to make this point that it is not insane for people to look at this and say, if they're lying about this, what else are they lying about? Now, the conversation that I had with Sane went into this thing of the Parkland shooting, but they're definitely going to take that one down. If the other one was too risque, this one is definitely going to be too risque. So you shouldn't. I am a free speech extremist on this stuff. Let people say what they have to say. If you want to have any legitimacy at all, allow people to have their say. In the moment that you try to suppress that speech, is going to be the speech that those people look at and be like, why are they trying to suppress that speech? Maybe there's something there to it more than what there might have been beforehand. Nah, I agree with you.
Yes, and actually, you know, it's in a way that can be to our advantage, and I hope that that's what's going to happen today. I hope that people go, oh, what's Jamal saying? Why is he so naughty? Why does he get censored? And then they'll come and have a look. and get some truth dumped on them. That would be really good. Let's hope that happens.
I love the word naughty. For some reason, it sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. So whoa. So what's the name of the book? The name of the book is, well, I'm going to let you discuss the name of the book. What's the book about? You sent me a copy of the book, and I was able to read through it last night. I love that book. Now, I'll let you explain the name of the book. So what's the name of the book, and what is the book about? I don't want to steal your thunder.
Well, okay. Well, the people kept asking me for a map to the, especially after the Bernie thing collapsed, and everyone was like, "Oh, wow, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, where do we go to next? What's the plan? What's the map? We really need a map." And I kept taking this, going deep on this and meditating on this and going, all right, well, show me the map. Come on, show me the map. But what kept coming up was this. Like, here's the map. I don't know if it's very useful. It does actually have a map in it. Like, well, it's got, when you get the book, you also get like, see, there's the map there. You get like a stack of things. So the book takes you through a process of giving you everything that you need. A cage angel comes down and it gives the reader everything that they need for the coming revolution, and you unpack it over the course of the book. And you also get a sword and a compass and
a shield.
It's fun.
That was a shield. I thought it was a shield involved.
Get the shield. Yeah. So it came from people asking you over and over and over again, where to next? What is next? And so I know it's not as like egoically gratifying as like, okay, so now we form a party and we do this and we do that or whatever. But I truly believe that this is not just a revolution. It's going to be an evolution, and it's going to come from within us. We're going to have to tangle our own inner Hillary Clintons, we're going to have to slay our own inner dragons and our own privileges and things like that, so that we can kind of expand ourselves in a more creative way and in a more confident way into the world, and change things from the ground up. Because really, if we have a revolution that's from the top down again, we're just going to get another authoritarian sort of regime, which is basically what we've got now. We've got, a handful of people who control the media, control the resources, control everyone in a very soft way. Like, but that makes it harder because, like when you're a prisoner of, yeah. So
I agree with you.
The process of waking up.
No, I agree with you on this. I don't think I suspect that if there's going to be any change in the society, it has to come from the inside. Like I don't know if the top down thing works. I think for all intents and purposes, what takes place on a higher level is this kind of derivative thing of what takes place on a lower level. Like the individuals themselves and how the individuals function kind of allow the society to prosper the way society prospers. That it would take this kind of change in values in order to kind of change those things, and some of that is just changing the way that we look at the world and we interact with the world. So when you say that no, it's not as sexy as forming a party and everything else, there is something to be said about starting at a basic premise or a basic fundamental premise in the way that you look at the world and trying to alter it. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the first few poems in the book, the first thing, it was funny, I sat there and read it to my wife last night, and it was talking about the way people look at the world. Like, it was this extremely emotional way of well, it felt that way. I'm just saying the way it felt. Of saying, I'm not looking at the world, and I'm paraphrasing, from the left eye or the right eye. I'm talking about people who look at the world through both. Like being able to deal with the experiences themselves that you come in contact with, these kind of ghastly experiences, and not necessarily just harden your heart or pretend it doesn't exist, but to actually deal with the situation to which you find yourself. I do think you need to start there. Like I don't necessarily think that's a subtle thing. I think that's because think about it. People spend their days for the most part spending 40, 50 hours working. And then they play their Xbox. They go and buy groceries. They shop. They do this. They do that. But ultimately, they completely detach from what it means to actually be a person. They consider that these external things for themselves are the things that make people. And for as long as they're just plugged into this kind of false reality of this stuff, then yeah, the society is going to be allowed to go the way it goes. It's like wine and circus, and here's your wine and here's your circus. Now shut the hell up and go do your work on some kind of plantation. The book is that pre-step. It's that step of, okay, wait a minute, I need to look at the world in a slightly different way in order to understand what's taking place. So I don't necessarily think it's I know it's, like you said, it's not as gratifying as here's a party and here's $1 billion to go start this party and go kick some ass. It's the starting point. It's that initial step of how do you look at the world in order to get change in this particular world? And we can't necessarily continuously do the same thing that we've always done and get some kind of different result. And I love it.
Yeah. And I hope also that it kind of sparks the inner artist. What I saw in the Bernie campaign was particularly, it was nearly won by people putting their art into it. People were making songs and they were making great posts and they were making memes and they were like thoroughly just throwing their, how many beautiful pictures were drawn of Bernie and the bird. And It was a very art-driven revolution. And so, the inner creative, I would love to, and you're right, people just don't have time. Like if you're working 40 or more hours a week and, you get home, you're exhausted, you've got to make dinner, you've got kids or whatever. It's just exhausting to be alive, basically, in where we are right now. But if we take some moments for ourselves and just let the muse speak through us, I actually think that will help.
No, I can understand that. Yeah, I can totally understand that. I'm curious.
Parents, you shouldn't listen to culture. You should make your own culture, basically. Because the culture that we've been given is a top-down culture. It's from Hollywood. It's from these elite worldviews that just want it to keep us docile and going to work every day and not making too much noise about stuff and believing in, the American dream or heaven or whatever the future thing is, that keeps us rolling along and just working for the man. So all of that culture needs to, we need to make our own culture.
There never seems to be a changeover. It always seems, I always say history sticks to itself. So there's never a point where society says, hey, maybe we could do this better. Society just kind of rolls along making these kind of small incremental changes for better or worse, and it just kind of ticks by, never necessarily evaluating. I give you an example. We were, this was a while ago. My mom used to force me to go to church when I was a kid. And I remember this one specific thing where the guy was saying how they would do, I think it was for Christmas or for Thanksgiving, they would get a ham, they would cut the ham in half, and they would put the ham in a bag, and they would put it in the oven, and they would cook it. And they did this for generations, one generation after the next, after the next, after the next. And somebody one day was like, why are we cutting this in half in this way? I mean, this seems fucking ridiculous. I mean, we have a whole ham. You're throwing half of it away. And they said, this is the way we've always done it, and we do this. And they came up with all these reasons for the reason that they do it this way. And they eventually contact, I think it was the great-grandmother or something like that. And she was like, well, our stove was too small in order to put this in, so we had to cut it in half in order to do it. Now, for all of these generations, they've been doing this under this model of this is the way you should do it, this is the way it has to be done, this way gives you some kind of better... Nonsense! I mean, they were doing it for particular reasons, but those reasons weren't necessarily valid. And nobody stood around one day and said, wait a minute, why are we doing this? It took generations for somebody to even come to the conclusion of maybe this is not the way this needs to be done. History sticks to itself.
I'm sure there are thousands upon thousands of things that individuals do every day that are just like that. That's a really good example, and a very clear example. But
always remember that. Always remember that example. That stuck with me for decades, because I thought to myself, wow, that's a perfectly good example. Like, that is an amazing example of the way human beings kind of just tick along. They take on a particular ideology, and they make excuses for that ideology in order to back up and support that particular ideology, not asking the question of whether or not this ideology is best. Like, you think of all the people who make these arguments for capitalism, saying how great it is, and you have the overwhelming majority of the world living off like $10 a day. Well, that's great for you. It's not necessarily great for the rest of the world that's in poverty and that's fucking dying from, pollution and whatnot. Not have access to
I always say, we've run that experiment, man. We've run the experiment. The results came back. They were not good. Why do you keep wanting to hit yourself with the same thing? Like, no. It's very strange to me. Like, but they just want to give us 10 more years. We can do it. Like, capitalism is going to solve all of this. It got us here. It'll get us out of here. That's optimism, man. People say I'm optimistic, but that is real optimism.
You're talking about utopia. That is a utopian idea. I mean, it's amazingly utopian. I mean, they're like, well, we can make sure companies get massive amounts of profit and supply health care. We can do both. Or it's this insane stuff. We can make sure people have $90 billion and at the same token make sure there's no poverty. It's like, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't have this rapacious system where you're screwing people over and, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. First, let me ask this before going back into the book. Just so I'm clear, you're not a Nazi, right? Like, you're not a white supremacist. You're not out there holding a banner. You're not burning tiki torches. If somebody said they saw you at one of those rallies, those people would be mistaken, right? Because there was a child who said that you were a Nazi or something to that effect.
Oh, that would be very funny. Imagine if someone like me did turn up. That would be,
man, oh my God. Mind-blowing. You would have all these pictures saying, we told you she was a Nazi. We told you. Here's this image that looks a little bit like her. If you look at her, if you squint and look at it a particular way, it looks just like a Nazi. Yeah. That would be so sad. Please don't
No. I'm not a
Nazi,
but
like
I have to answer that every day. Like, apparently I'm a secret Nazi, so that's even more awesome. It's that's my life now. Well, last time we talked, it was just blowing up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And
yes, it was.
Yeah,
I had not heard anything about that for I think it had been almost a year. Like, and I'm like, look, I honestly wish the name Chernovich wouldn't have been used, but by the same token, it's like, I also honestly wish that people who looked at it said that wasn't her point. Like, they completely bypassed the point. That's the thing that always aggravates me about this. They completely missed the point. Like, the whole point was, there are times where if there's something that you agree with them on, like, I use Rand Paul because I say Rand Paul doesn't, he fights for this thing of we shouldn't be putting people in prison for drugs. Well, I think Rand Paul is pretty detestable on all sorts of things. But on that particular issue, I agree with him. And I don't see why that's insane. And they jumped the shark. That's like somebody saying, well, I mean, this guy says that Rand Paul, he's okay with, supporting Rand Paul in the specific context of not going to war, or in the specific context of not putting people in prison for smoking a goddamn plant. Well, that guy is an uber capitalist because he's supporting Rand Paul. I was like, well, what are you talking about? I don't know. I just agree with him on this specific point. They've jumped the shark magnificently on this. And, an entire article, multiple articles. You wrote like 2 or 3 articles on this. And they only focused on, well, she said Chernovich, so she's clearly a Nazi. Fucking amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. And it's still going on. It's still going on. But anyway, it seems to have kind of congealed into, there's just one sort of group who's, and it's not about that anymore. You can tell they just use it as a weapon. Like, they just bash me with it all the time. But they basically don't like me for a raft of other reasons. So they bring up that thing all the time because, then they're just trying to get people to look at me suspiciously. It's like, it's just a psyop.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's just literally all it is. I give it no legitimacy at all. And I don't think people who read your stuff give it legitimacy. Like, the people who are here bitch about that, I'm like, did you even read that? Like, or
They never
what?
have.
It's like, what
Very
did you
rarely
read of that?
read it.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
there's no way you could read this article and come away with that. It's almost like you read 1,000 pages, you see 2 words, and you just jump on the 2 words. It's like, what was the rest of the context of the entirety of the thing? It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: within your book, Woke, I think what is it called? Utopia Prepper. I love that name. Utopia Prepper. Could you show them the book so everybody can see it? I'm gonna put a link to it so people can see for themselves. Wait. There we are. Utopia Preppers. Now, where can they get this book from? That's the other question.
Mainly online. But if you go into your bookshop, they'll order it in. I would like people to do that if they can find the time to do that. But everyone's really busy, and if you have to go through Amazon, you have to go through Amazon, man. I'm not gonna
Bezos.
I'm not gonna victim blame you for that.
Help Bezos with that extra $100 billion. Man. I mean, but look, there's no. It's like, how do you get around that? Like, we're our society, man. It's so fucked up. Like, even if, look, I often think that these things are not individual. Like, these things function from the level of the society itself, meaning how people behave is in the context of the society. So, if somebody is overweight, are they overweight purely because of them, or are they overweight because the society essentially helps them be overweight? If you're driving home and there's a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Hardee's, and it's like, yes, you could say that person shouldn't stop at those places, but by the same token, you have a society that says these things are perfectly okay, and for all intents and purposes, you have them going all the way down the street as you're going home. Now, the moment that you look at society and say, well, look, the majority of the people in this society are overweight, then you can't necessarily isolate that down purely to an individual choice. If the majority of the society is overweight, there's something going on in the way the society is arranged that's driving behavior. The Amazon is one of those things. It's like, the guy has like $100 billion, which is ungodly. Like, there's no reason anybody in the society should have that much money. And yet, you're still stuck with this thing of, if I want this item, Amazon is A, probably one of the most inexpensive ways to get it, and B, one of the most convenient ways to get it. It becomes this kind of difficult thing to work around life in this way. Like, it really does.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's not like holding back your 20, 30, 40 bucks a week is going to cut down on his bottom line. The guy made $5 billion in one day. Yeah. The other week.
Some ungodly number. It really is.
Yeah.
If I was
and I think at this kind of end stage capitalism too, most people, probably 80% of people, are struggling, dollar for dollar each day.
Yeah.
And to tell them that it's their problem, that it's that they are the problem for using Amazon because it's cheaper, or that it's more convenient or whatever, and put it all back on them. Oh, you've got to use your dollars better. That is just yucky. Like, I just don't like that. Don't blame the victims of it. It's not like they've got anything to gain from that. And when you've got only a small amount of money in your household, you've got to make these decisions.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always like, I just tell people, take what you need. You really do need to take what you need. Be healthy, get strong, and fight it. Fight the actual machine.
I felt the same way about recycling. My wife disagrees with me on this, but it's like you have you think of all the things that are drivers of climate change and everything else. And those things boil down to industry. You're talking about like oil and gas, and you're talking about animal agriculture. And it's like the idea of recycling is like, yes, in principle, I like the idea. You put your cans and everything else. But let's be honest, me putting my can in the box is not going to fix these issues that we have associated with the way we use our resources. I mean, we have computers where we build equipment and build supplies that we know are going to fall apart because it's cheaper, or if I owned a company, I built a computer. If that computer lasts for 10 years, that company is going to go out of business. So the company has an incentive then sort of to build those things so they can go obsolete in a period of time. So your computer may last for 2 years as opposed to last for 10. It's like the mining that it takes to get the materials for that computer, all of the things, all of the materials that go into the computer, and that thing just get tossed in like a year or two. Yes, me putting my cans in is not necessarily a horrible thing, but it's worse in the way that we organize our system, where we create this kind of planned obsolescence for this stuff to go bust in a short period of time, because the companies themselves can't necessarily make their profits if those products lasted for a longer time. Like, we don't build that stuff for sustainability. We build that stuff purely for the sake of profit, despite us having a finite planet. She disagrees with me on it. She still feels, I think what it is, people want to feel like they're doing something. So it's like, I'm throwing this can into the can. I'm an awesome fucking person. Look at me throw this can into this container. But it's like, yes, you're an awesome fucking person, but that you being an awesome fucking person and you throwing that can in is not really doing what you think it is. It just makes you feel better, and there's a difference between those things. Yeah, I'm not blaming the victim on this. Meaning, I'm not gonna hit people for stuff like this. I find this stuff needs to be done at a more macro scale as opposed to the individual level. So I just agree.
Yeah, well, we really. Yeah. We really do need to change the actual system, because, like you pointed out, just in those stories there, the mechanism of money, like the way the so-called intelligence of money, the way that money moves in the world, does not benefit humans. It doesn't. Like, the planned obsolescence of products like computers and things like that. So we've got like kids in the Congo drenched in mud trying to get the cobalt for our
so true.
Products, etc. It's just horrendous. The psychopathic nature of money and the way that it will just gouge the most vulnerable and hand it over to the least vulnerable, like the sociopaths, the people who are willing to do anything and run over anyone to get what they want.
Let me ask you this:
so,
is there a part of the book? And I told you it was only going to last for 45 minutes, so I'm not going to keep you too long. Is there something like a passage in a book that you would? What's one of your favorites? Let me say it that way. Because I feel iffy asking this, because I don't want to ask you to, I guess, give too much of the book. But at the same token, is there a passage? Is there a part? Is there a poem? Is there something in the book itself that you would like to get across to people as one of your favorite portions of the book? Let me say it that way. Your own specific.
Well, actually, yeah,
it's your choice. I'm not trying to put you on the spot on this. If you could say, yeah, just buy the book, I don't want you to do it.
I always feel quite protective of it, like it's my little baby. And my friends keep saying, "Why aren't you promoting it better?" Like, and I'm like, because people might say bad things.
Whatever. It's up. It's.
I mean, like, I don't mind being ballsy about my opinions. They're just my opinions. But, like, I do feel a little bit protective of the book. But
about your work itself, right. I feel you.
Yeah,
I had to get over, that was one of those things I had to get over when I started my channel. Because my wife, when you're trying to advertise your channel and stuff like that, and I found myself, it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to put this on Facebook because I don't want people to, and then you think, it's like, well, wait a minute, you're actually putting on the channel. You're putting this stuff out anyway. At some point, somebody's going to see it. Somebody's not going to like it. Somebody's going to have some feelings about it. And like you said, these are just my opinions, so it's not that. It's funny, for whatever reason, the opinions matter more to me than the writing, and maybe to me because it's purely in a political context. There's not that big of a difference between them. Personally, I thought your work was fine. I liked the book. I didn't get the chance to read the entirety of it, but the parts that I read, I liked a lot. So, if there's a portion of this that you're okay with reading, what I guess my question would be, what is one of your favorite portions that you would like to get across?
Well, I'd actually like to. I thought about this. I wrote this one called "Speak," and that's Portia from the DNC convention. Which there's a little video of.
I remember her. Claudius. I remember this woman. This is the woman who was pissed off when she got outside, right? She like flipped out when she got outside, and she was like pissed off at the DNC. I remember her.
And she's Portia Bolger, yeah. And she spoke like Mother Earth was rattling through her, didn't she, that day? Like, it was so moving.
She was awesome.
And even to this day, if like occasionally I'll happen upon that video, I always stop and watch it, and I'm always drenched in tears by the end of it, because she really did speak for so many people that day. So I found that so inspiring. So here's a poem called Speak. Your voice can shake the sand dunes and make farm flowers grow on the beach. Your voice can knock down the tall castles of the bastards chortling against the smoggy night sky. They don't make you afraid of using it because it's stupid. They make you afraid of using it because it is powerful. So use it. Speak. Let your voice awaken the embryos in their cells. Speak. Wipe the grin off the faces of those recursive laughing Buddhas and make the very fabric of the universe look up from its TV dinner and take note. Speak when your enemies tell you not to speak. Speak when your friends and allies tell you not to speak. Speak when your better judgment tells you not to. Speak when every fibre of your being tells you not to. Speak to shatter the conspiracy of silence. Speak to end our ancient heritage of not speaking. Speak so that others may lose their voicelessness. Speak because only the bastards are speaking. Speak for the angels who are choking on chemicals. Speak for the children sprayed red with blood. Speak for the sea turtles drowning in plastic. Speak for the dream guides bulldozed and paved over. Speak for the tree stumps bleeding crude oil. Speak for the women trapped in small cages. Speak for the mothers whose eyes are sedated. Speak for the sky whose dragons have vanished. Speak for the cities full of medicated childhoods. And speak for the dreamers about to give up. Speak. Speak. We are sitting here waiting to find out if this play will go on.
That is awesome. Oh, that is awesome. It puts me to mind when you said, I forget what it was. It was you were having a conversation with someone and they asked you why. This was one of your it was an interview if I'm not mistaken. And they asked you why was you writing this kind of punchy writing where you were like just blunt and going after somebody. And you kind of made this point like oftentimes people hide their voice or don't necessarily like give form to their voice. And your point was, I want to be able to get across what I want to get across, and I don't necessarily want to be cowed in getting that across. That's what it puts me in mind of, this thing of speak your piece. Even when you don't necessarily feel like it, even if you feel people are pushing against you, speak your piece. And yeah, Portia, she spoke her piece. She was pissed off that day. I distinctly remember that. She came out there spitting fire that day. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry it was a bit weird trying to get everything set up and everything else. But I appreciate you coming on. Totally.
Yeah, no worries. And I hope that only draws attention to you and that it just gets you a heap of followers and it does exactly the opposite of what they intend, which is to silence us.
That's
so
exactly what they're
speak, Jamal. Speak.
Thank you very much. If you ever need to talk or wanted to come on, something like that, just let me know. You're always welcome to the soapbox.
Oh, yeah, I don't like doing interviews very much. This is like one of two that I've done actually lately. Because,
really?
With the writing and everything, it's a lot of work and I need to be focused on that mostly. But yeah, when you said that you wanted to talk to me, I was like, oh, I had such a good time last time.
Well,
so,
you said woke.
Yeah.
I mean, when you had the book out, my thought was, she has a book out. Let's see if I can, get people to see the book. That was my thought. And my audience loves you. And so it's this kind of combination of, A, my audience love her, and B, she has a book that she's essentially selling her book. So it was kind of those two factors. But that was my thought. That was my thought behind it. So, and not to mention, I love the book. Like, it was one of those things I was reading through the poem. Like I said, I was reading my wife. Some of it. And, I mean, granted, it was late. She was halfway out. But at the very least, she sat there and listened to me read it through it. It was good. I liked it. I even saw your interview with Dor. And I was determined. I was like, all right, I'm not going to run over the same threads that Dora did. I want to talk about different things, and I want to deal with the things that she herself likes about the book. So, no, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I know my audience loves you to bits. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamal. You're beautiful.
All right, guys, I'm going to end this here. Usually I would have chat and everything else, but because I'm not on YouTube today, I'm on Facebook. The chat thing, I don't necessarily know if it's going to work. So if you guys enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you guys can always support through Patreon or PayPal. And once again, Caitlin Johnston, thank you very much. And the book is named Woke. Have a good one, guys. All right, so we